Hello people, welcome back. This question is from GATE 2020 exam. They're asking if you call this function fun2 with 5 as parameter, what will be the value that is returned? So before analyzing this function, let us analyze function fun1 because this function fun2 is actually calling the function fun1 here. Okay, so let's analyze this one first. Suppose I'm calling this function fun1 with initial value as 3. So I'm passing 3 as parameter. Now whenever a function is called, you will push an activation record on the stack. Suppose this is the activation record that is pushed. All the local variables will be declared here. So n is a local variable. This n will get memory inside this activation record and it will be initialized to 3 because we have passed 3 as parameter. So I've called fun1 3. Okay. Then in next line you are declaring a static variable, that is I. I will be declared out of this activation record. Okay, I is a static variable. Static variables will not be declared inside the activation record. They are actually declared in the data section of the program. Okay, so I is 0. Now if n is greater than 0, that is true, then execute these two lines. So let us execute them. Plus plus I, that means make it 1, and fun1, call this function fun1 and pass n minus 1 as parameter. N is 3, so n minus 1 means 2. So you are trying to call this function with 2 as a parameter. Whenever a function is called, a activation record will be pushed. Okay, this time you are passing a value 2. So this local variable will be declared in the activation record and it is assigned the initial value of 2. Okay. Now see, as a result of this function call, a new activation record is pushed corresponding to the new function that has just now been called. When this function call ends, that means when you have executed all the lines of this function, you will come back and you have to execute this line because currently we have executed till here. Okay, after this only last line is remaining for this function. So I am writing j here. Okay, so I am labeling this return I as j. That means for this function line number j is remaining. Okay, now for n is equal to 2, let's see what will happen. Static int I is equal to 0. This line will not be executed because for function fun1 already you have this variable I. Okay, I is a static variable and static variables, they will be declared only once. If you are executing this program and within the program you have called this function say 5 times, for each and every function call this same value will be used. Okay, and when the function call ends, this will not get deleted. Okay, for next function call we have to preserve this same value. So initialization will be done only once. Now we have assigned the value in this function call. Don't assign it again. That means don't change its value. Whatever was the current value will be retained. Okay. Now next line says if n is greater than 0, then do these two things. N is still greater than 0. That means increment it like this and make another function call. This time the value that will be passed is 2 minus 1. That is 1. Okay. So a new activation record will be pushed and will get a value 1. This n is local variable for the new function call, that is to the same function only. Okay, so this will not get executed because you already have a integer named I that belongs to function fun1 and is static. Okay, if n is greater than 0, true, then execute these two lines. That means plus plus I like this and call a function fun1 with 1 minus 1 as the parameter. That means you are passing 0. So a new function call will be made with 0 as parameter. So 0 is given to this variable n. Now see, this line will not get executed because already we have this variable I. But this condition will be false for current call. Currently in activation record corresponding to this function call, n is 0. This line says if n is greater than 0. No, 0 is not greater than 0. That means it is false. So both of these lines are skipped. We execute this line directly. Return I. That means this function has to end because you are executing a return statement. Executing return statement means this activation record will be popped and some value will be returned to previous function call. What is that value? It is I. I is currently 3. So 3 is returned. Now see this function, for each and every call that we have made, we just paused the current function here and we started executing this new function call. So for all of these 3 functions, line number j is remaining. Okay, this line. So for this function, only one line is remaining, that is the last line, return I. So whenever you execute it, see, you will come back from this call and you will resume this function. It will be resumed from here only. I've actually forgotten to mark j here and here. Okay. Anyways, line number j is remaining. So that will be executed. That is return I. So 3 will be returned to previous function. Now you have executed last line. That means the function call has ended. So this will be popped. And then for this function also line number j is remaining. That means it will also return 3 and it will get popped. This one will also return 3 and it will get popped. Suppose here there is activation record of main function and initially fun1 3, that means the original function call that we made, this one, that was called from main function. So it will return a value 3 to the main function. Okay. Now see, this function returned 3 to this function. But here we are not using it anywhere. Okay. So maybe in the main function, we might be using this value 3. Okay. Anyways, now you got to know what this function is doing. Now let me just make one more call to this function. Just one, you'll understand it in a bit more detail. Suppose now I call it with the value 2. Now I'm calling this function once again with 2 as parameter. So I'm writing fun1, these brackets, and in brackets I'm writing 2. So n will get a value 2. Okay. N is 2. Static int I is equal to 0 will not get executed because already you have this variable. And this value, it will be retained. Okay. So current value of I is 3. Don't assign 0. If n is greater than 0, 2 is greater than 0, it is 2. So execute both of these lines. That means plus plus I. So I will be updated to 4. And fun1 n minus 1. So 2 minus 1 means 1. So you are calling this function with value 1. Again, this function will be called. Okay. N is equal to 1 like this. Now, see, both of these are activation records. 2 will be pushed here, n is equal to 2. Then on top of it, n is equal to 1, that activation record will be pushed. I'm just doing it quickly. Anyways, for this one, this line will not get executed. N is greater than 0 is true. So plus plus I makes I is equal to 5. Then fun1 of 0 will be called. Whenever this is called, you simply return I. See, on top of it, I think it's not visible. Anyways, on top of it, there will be n is equal to 0. And n is equal to 0 simply pops by returning the value of I. So it will return I is equal to 5. This one will also return 5. And this one will also return 5. This time, 5 is returned to the calling function. Okay. So what is this function doing? Whatever is the current value of I, it adds n and return. Whatever variable you have passed. Suppose, see, if you call this function fun1 like this. Now if you call it, what will happen? This will be incremented 12 times. So incrementing it 12 times means the value will be 7. So 5 plus 12 is, the value will be 17. And the 17 will be returned. That's it. Okay. If you want to see it one more time, if I call fun1 3, what will happen? 3 will be added in current value of I, so it becomes 20 and 20 is returned. Okay. See, all of those activation records will be pushed. If I am calling fun1 3 or rather 4 activation records will be pushed. Okay. For 4th record, the value of n will be 0. Okay. But it will be incremented only 3 times because when n is 0, you will not execute these 2 lines. Okay. Now let us start this question. Question says, we are calling this function fun2 and we are passing 5 as the parameter. What will happen? Let us see what will happen. So I'm just drawing the stack once again. You're calling function fun2 and you're passing value 5. So this local variable n, it will be allocated inside the activation record. Local variables get memory in the activation record and a value 5 is assigned. Now static int I is equal to 0. You're calling this function for first time. That means this line will get executed. So integer I is declared and value is 0. This is a static variable. Now for all subsequent calls to this function, you have to skip this line because static integers, they are declared only once. Okay. Now if n is greater than 0, which is true, then do these two things. So update the value of I, take its current value which is 0, and to this 0 add whatever is returned by this function call. Okay. So fun1 5, it will be called. Now let us see what will happen. When you call this function with 5 as the parameter, what will happen? This function is called for the first time. First time call means this line will be executed. So integer I will be declared and it will have value 0. See, this I and this I, they are separate. This I is for this function fun2. This I is for this function fun1. Okay, keep it in mind. Static variables are declared only once. So don't think that I is already declared so you can use this I. No. Both of these I's, they are separate and they belong to these functions. Okay. This one is for fun2 and this one is for fun1. Now if n is greater than 0, is n greater than 0? Yeah, n is 5. So you will execute this. I hope you are getting it. 0 will be incremented how many times? 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. Okay. And this 5 will be returned. Okay. So 0 plus 5 is assigned to I. See, I'm actually skipping a lot of things now. There will be 6 activation records that will be pushed. Okay. Then they will return the value 5. So 5 will be returned and this function, it will return 5. I'm directly writing 5 because I've explained all of those things. So just to save some space and time, I've not shown you all of that calls. Okay. We actually want to save space and time, whether it is computing or real life. We are very concerned about space as well as time. Anyways, now this value 5, it will be assigned to the variable I. So I is updated with the value 5. Okay. Then next time you are calling this function fun2 with n minus 1 as the parameter. So what is n? N is 5. 5 minus 1 means 4. So you are passing 4 to this function fun2. So a function fun2 will be called with the value 4. Let us see what will happen now. This line will not get executed because for this function, we already have a variable called I that is inside this memory, static memory. Okay. So this will be skipped. If n is greater than 0. N is a local variable. So it has to be in the activation record. See, in activation record of current function, there is a variable called n. Its value is 4. Is 4 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So you have to execute both of these lines, these two. Okay. That means update the value of I, take its current value that is 5. Add whatever is returned by this function call. This function call will return 5 plus this parameter. This parameter is 4. So 5 plus 4, 9 will be returned. Okay. And this will be updated to 9. Okay. Now I think you have got the pattern. You can just solve it by yourself. It's easy one now. So 5 plus 9 will be 14. That means you have to update this value of variable I to 14. So I'm assigning it 14 like this. Okay. Now next line is fun2 n minus 1. That means a new activation record will be pushed corresponding to function fun2. In this variable, you are passing a value 4 minus 1, that is 3. Like this. Okay. And for each of these calls, just last line is remaining. We have already seen it. Let's call it line number J. So line number J is remaining for this one as well as this one. Now here, next line is a function call. That means again activation record is pushed. That is this one. So whenever you come back to the same line, this will be completely executed, and again line number J is remaining. So I've written J here. Okay. So let's talk about the new function that is called right now. For that function call, this line will be skipped. 3 is greater than 0, true. So I will be updated. That means take the current value, that is 14. To it add fun1 3. So when you call fun1 with the value 3, what will happen? 9 will be incremented 3 times. So 9, 10, 11, 12. And 12 will be returned. Like this. Okay. So 12 plus 14 is assigned to I. Then you will just make another function call to fun2, that is fun2 with the value n minus 1, that is 2. Okay. So fun2 is called with n is equal to 2. And 14 plus 12 is assigned to I. So 14 plus 12 is 26. Okay. So new value becomes 26. Now for this function call, line number J is remaining. For this function, this will be true. So I will be updated to 26 plus fun1 of 2. So fun1 of 2 means this will be updated twice. So it will be 14 and 14 will be returned. So you are adding 14. So 26 plus 10 is 36. 36 plus 4 means 40, like this. Okay, so current value becomes 40. Then again you are calling function fun2. So activation record for fun2 will be pushed with n is equal to 1. Okay. Now see, whenever you will return, that means whenever this function is completely executed, for the previous function, for this one, line number J is remaining. Okay. And for this current call, let's see what will happen. N is greater than 0. So you will take the current value of I, that is 40. To this current value, you will add this. So fun1 of 1. Fun1 of 1 means increment it once. So it becomes 15 and return 15. So 15 is returned. That means I is updated to 40 plus 15. That is 55. Okay. And then you again make another function call. This time what will happen? Fun2 of 0 will be called. So fun2 is called and n is 0. Because n is 0, this will be false. So both of these lines will be skipped and only return I will be executed. So I is 55. That means this function is going to return 55 and it will be popped. For this function call, only one line is remaining, that is last line, return I. So it will return 55 and it will be popped. Similarly, this one will also return 55. Here also it will return 55. Here also it will return 55. And now they were asking, if you call this function fun2 with n is equal to 5, that means this function call, what will it return? It is also returning a value 55 only. Okay. And suppose it was called from the main function. So main function gets this value 55. So answer to this question is 55. Now I'll just explain it in one more way. That is a shortcut. You don't need to do all of this stuff. And most of you might have guessed there is a pattern. So I'll just write it here. See, initially I is 0 for both of them. So I is equal to 0 is declared here. And we'll see about this function. So n is called with value 5. 5 is greater than 0. So you are going to execute this line once. Okay. That is current value, that is 0, plus whatever this returns. So fun1 of 5, what is it going to return? It is going to return 5 only because this function is called for first time. So I is equal to 0 and we are passing 5. So it will increment it 5 times like this and it will return 5. So I is currently 0 This returns 5. That means I is updated to 0 plus 5. Okay. Now you are calling this function fun2 with the value 4. What will happen? I is equal to current value, that is this only, plus fun of 4. Fun1 of 4. Fun1 of 4 will take this and increment it 4 times and return it. So current value is 0 plus 5. To this we are adding 9. Okay. Then function fun1 is called with the value 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. What will happen? You will take this current value, that is this one. To this you are going to add fun1 of 3. So fun1 of 3 is 9. That is this current value. 9 plus 3. How much? It is 12. Then next time what will happen? 12 plus 2 will be added. So it is 14. Next time what will happen? 14 plus 1 will be added. It is 15. Now we have added 1 right now. That means next time 0 will be added. And whenever the value is 0, we simply don't perform these lines. Okay, so next time actually nothing will be added. The function will return. So this is the answer. Let me just verify if it is correct. 5 plus 9 is 14. So 14 plus 14 is 28. And 38 plus 2 is 40. 40 plus 15 is 55. Yeah, so answer is 55. Okay.